Good evening, I'm Cenk Uygur. Today, the CEOs of big oil came to Washington to try to defend the indefensible. $4 billion in tax breaks each year taken out of the taxpayers' pockets. That would be you that they are taking from. With Democrats fighting to end those subsidies once and for all, executives for the top 5 oil companies tried to claim they paid their fair share in taxes, which is nonsense. Of course, Democrats on the committee were having none of it.
The oil and gas business pays its fair share of taxes.
We pay our full share.
In the case of ExxonMobil, that your effective federal tax rate is substantially, it's 3% lower than what the average individual federal tax rate is. I think you're out of touch, deeply, profoundly out of touch.
The truth is, the oil companies don't even come close to paying their fair share. Over the last 3 years, ExxonMobil, for example, had an effective tax rate of 17.6%. That's 3 points less than what the average American pays in income taxes. So, if you're a middle-class American, you're paying a higher tax rate than the richest company in the world. Does that sound fair to you? Senator Chuck Schumer also grilled a ConocoPhillips CEO about his company's statement that opposing the oil subsidies was, quote, un-American.
Do you think anyone who advocates cutting these subsidies is un-American?
That's a very important question, so I just, if I could, make a comment or two to respond to your question.
You apologize for it?
Make no mistake, were these proposals enacted that we're talking about today?
I know your view on the issue. Do you consider it un-American to have a different view? Yes or no?
Senator, I believe that the proposals under consideration are going to have a very adverse impact with respect to energy policy.
Get a load of these guys. So not letting big oil skip out on their taxes is un-American. I guess in their version of America, where they buy our politicians to do their bidding, yeah, then it would be un-American. Of course, today, it wasn't the first time around the block for these big oil guys. Executives faced a similar panel back in 2005. Now, at that hearing, Senator Ron Wyden asked the execs if they agreed with then-President Bush, who said oil companies don't need incentives when oil prices are so high. And back then, they were just at $55 a barrel.
In my oral comments, I said we do not need, but we do need, though, is access.
Just a yes or
access? Yes.
Sir? President's correct?
He's correct.
Sir?
Yes, he is.
So they agreed. No need for incentives. Wyden played that 2005 clip for the executives today and then hit them with this.
If your company didn't need incentives to drill for oil at $55 a barrel, how in the world can you possibly need incentives when oil is at $100 a barrel?
Our costs go up. Taxes have gone up.
That's a joke. Their costs are nearly identical to what they were back then, and their taxes have not gone up one dime. In fact, their effective tax rate has gone way down. You know what's gone up, though? The price you pay at the gas pump and the incredible profits that these oil companies are making. So where do they get the nerve? Well, look, they're sitting there telling the senators anything they like. They were cocky today. They were telling them, oh, we're not going to back down from anything. Why? Because they figured they already bought Congress. You want me to show you how? Do you know that since 1998, they've spent $1.1 billion on lobbying? Last year alone, they spent $146 million. So the senators can say all they like. They know there's nothing that's going to go past the House, because in the House, they bought all the Republicans. You know how much they paid for the Republicans last year? Well, they paid them $21.8 million in direct campaign contributions. So that's why they get to sit up there and be the welfare queens that they are and take all of our money and then laugh at us. These guys are the worst when it comes to not believing in the free market. All those conservatives talk about free market, nonsense. All they do is leech off of us. You see very clearly where I stand on this. Now let's bring in Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill in Missouri. She's a co-sponsor of the bill to roll back the big oil subsidies. Senator, great to have you here.
Thanks. Good to be with you.
Great. Tell me about your bill. How much does it take away in oil subsidies, and do you think it has a chance of passing?
Well, we have tried to do the very simplest bill we possibly could by limiting it to the 5 largest big oil companies. These are the same 5 companies that made a profit of over $35 billion just in the last 3 months. So the fact that we are limiting it to the big guys and not going after the small independent producers, and secondly, that all this money is going to go towards the deficit. What I can't imagine is all these guys around here talking about the deficit and the debt, the deficit and the debt, and they aren't willing to step up and take away these tax goodies from the wealthiest and most profitable corporations in the history of the world.
So, Senator, we know that if you just go to try to pass it, the Republicans are going to filibuster, and you've got 2 Democrats who are on their side, Mary Landrieu and Mark Begich. And then, you know, in the House, the Republicans totally control it. They just voted in unison against cutting these subsidies because their bosses are the big oil companies. There's no question about that. But when you go into negotiations about what to cut, because that's coming next, is it possible that the Democrats can say, and will they say, we're not going to do any cuts until you agree to these cuts that 74% of the American people agreed to, and this is the first set of cuts we have to have, otherwise no deal on anything?
Well, I think we're going to be in a pretty strong negotiating position, because if we don't have the political will to cut these subsidies to big oil, how are we ever going to find the political will to cut the subsidies to all the other parts of our economic picture right now? And like you said, I mean, we're not talking about free market. We're talking about subsidizing a lot of different corporations in a lot of different ways. All those tax goodies that are in the tax code got there via lobbyists. And really, we could lower taxes and have more revenue if we were focused on the people that didn't have lobbyists and take all those goodies away. So I think if these guys can't go for this very reasonable approach to reducing tax subsidies to corporations, I don't know how we can take them seriously on any of the deficit reduction.
Senator, I want to show you a clip from one of the welfare queens that was in the Senate today. That's CEO for ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson. He had the nerve to threaten us. I want you to watch it and get your reaction.
Okay.
You give me a different tax burden than my competitor has, I don't get to develop that lease. I'm going to take my capital then, since the U.S. is not attractive, I got to go somewhere else.
And he wasn't the only one. There were 2 CEOs today who said, oh, I'll leave the U.S. I say, God bless. Go to Somalia, see how that treats you. You know, and by the way, in 2009, they actually paid $15 billion of taxes to other countries and none to us. How do you take that threat from a guy like that?
Well, I think it's frankly a little nervy. The customers of this oil are in this country. They're paying very high prices right now. The people I represent are hurting because of gas prices. And these guys have been wildly profitable. The notion that they have to get subsidies from the United States taxpayer or they're going to leave our shores, that's what's un-American. That is un-American.
Yes, and by the way, there are plenty of other companies in the world that'll do drilling. You know how much profit they got in just 2010? They got $74 billion in profit. So for them to say that, oh no, they'll just take their business elsewhere is a joke. So look, you know, it's one thing to bring them up in front of the Senate here, and it's brought this issue to light, and I think it was a great maneuver to do that so that the American people can get educated on it. But again, I want to focus on what's next. Is there a will within the caucus of the Senate for the Democrats to say, we do not have any deal on cutting spending until you cut these subsidies?
I think what you're going to see is us bring the bill to the floor pretty quickly. And I'm still optimistic that there are maybe a few moderates left in the Republican Party that want to be consistent. You can't say we need to cut subsidies in our budget to help our deficit, but we won't touch the ones to big oil. And I think this is going to be a very uncomfortable vote for many of the Republican senators. So I'm hopeful that we may get a few of them and may actually get enough votes to pass it. But if not, we'll figure out the next best strategy to figure out a way to leverage this and get it passed. I think it's pretty important that we stay on this one until we get it done.
All right, Senator Claire McCaskill, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now joining me is John Hofmeister. He's the former president of Shell Oil, and he's the founder of Citizens for Affordable Energy and author of Why We Hate the Oil Companies, Straight Talk from an Energy Insider. Well, great having you here. You were one of those guys in 2005 who answered that question that you didn't need the subsidies. Is that right?
That's correct, Cenk.
And you think, I mean, it's so obvious, but I'll ask you anyway. You didn't need them at $55 a barrel. To Senator Wyden's question, is there any rational argument that these oil companies would need subsidies to promote drilling when oil's at $100 a barrel?
Look, what was happening today was showtime. It was theater, political theater. What the companies are objecting to is being singled out. There's a deal out there to be made, Cenk, and why the Senate and why the House and why the industry and why the White House won't come together to figure out some deal. The U.S. needs more oil. We all know that. There's oil to be had. The government needs more money. There's money in oil. The American people need lower prices. Where more oil will help lower prices. There's a deal here. And when the Democrats set out to just punish 5 companies, of course they're going to get pushed back. I would have pushed back. It's not the money, it's not the subsidies, it's the process. So how do we make a deal here that everybody could win?
John, you know, I agree with you when you say you don't need the subsidies back then. I think that you're still saying that today. When you say they're singling out these top 5, you lose me entirely. And I'll tell you why. It's not that you're wrong about that. But if you said, hey, let's take down the subsidies for the oil companies, I'm going to do that deal in 1 second flat. The reason we can't do it is because our politicians are bought. The entire Republican Party is in the tank for these guys. They got $21.8 million. Their votes have been literally bought by the oil companies. If I can get the Republicans to cut all the oil subsidies, I would do that in a second. Isn't that the problem? That these guys won't make a deal because their boss is the oil companies.
I think the problem is 50% Republican and 50% Democratic.
No way.
Both parties. Both parties. The Democrats
John,
refused to drill. No, Cenk. The Democrats have refused to. They've had the Senate for 5 years. We haven't had a single energy plan in 5 years, for Pete's sake.
John, let me show you why that's not right. Don't get me wrong.
With a reasonable energy plan.
No, John, listen, I got to set the record straight here. Look, are there Democrats who are in the tank for these guys? Absolutely. Mary Landrieu, you know how much she's gotten in her career? She's gotten $794,000, and now she says that this is a gimmick, right? Going after the oil subsidies. Mark Begich from Alaska, he's gotten $139,000, and he says the same thing. Oh, poor oil companies. We need to give them more of our tax money. So do I believe in these Democrats? Hell no. These Democrats are just as corrupt as the Republicans. But that's 2 of them, whereas it's in the entire Republican Party. You have to see that. You have to confess that.
I get this question in town halls all over the country. Why do we have legalized corruption in Washington, D.C.? Why are we paying any money to a politician, anybody? If they're in for public service, why would any public-minded politician want money? I think the whole corrupt system of pay to play, or whatever you call it, where we're using all this money, Republicans and Democrats, is just legalized corruption, and it should go away.
John, I couldn't agree more with that, right? But let's say you're in the Senate and you've got this bill in front of you. I'd vote for it in a second. Well, is it the best bill? I mean, I'd rather take away all the oil subsidies. They're all totally indefensible. I'd love to do clean elections. That's my #1 issue, so I totally agree with you there. But if you got this bill in front of you, who would you rather have the $21 billion? The oil companies that are making all these profits, or the American people?
Well, I don't think that's the solution. The oil companies need money to plow back in to make more oil. The American government needs more money. Everybody needs more money. You know where we get more money? We get more money by producing more oil, Cenk. The whole point is
it doesn't
produce
matter
more
if we
money.
never get the taxes for it.
Everybody comes out ahead. Everybody comes out ahead.
No, John, that's nonsense. I'll tell you why.
Consumers
Look,
get
John,
lower prices.
John,
the government gets more taxes. And the companies make more money to make more oil.
No, hold on. You got to answer this, John. They made $74 billion in profits last year, okay? And just this quarter, they made over $30 billion in profits. So it's not like they are not making profits. Their costs are incredibly low compared to $100 a barrel in oil. So they have all of the incentive in the world in the free market to drill, baby, drill. And they can drill all over the place, and they can make that profit. Why should we not tax them at a reasonable rate where they don't? Right now, they're paying less than the average middle-class guy in the street. Why is a plumber paying higher than ExxonMobil? That is unjustifiable.
Well, this is a 90-year-old problem, Cenk. These tax so-called subsidies go back 90 years, and some of them 80 years. And so this is not a new problem. Why hasn't it been settled before now? Why can't these companies get permits? Why can't they get leases? Why does the White House flip-flop on whether we're going to drill or not?
In the world. They've got all these leases they're not even using. John, look, these are all excuses. Is it a 90-year problem? I absolutely agree. So let's fix it today. Let's vote yes on that bill. Let's vote yes on the next bill that takes away the rest of the subsidies.
And here's
to say
what
that you're not going to do that is to say you are continuing the problem.
Here's what I said in the House of Representatives 2 months ago. 3 million more barrels, 3 million new jobs, $20 billion to the federal government, not $4 billion, $20 billion, Cenk, $20 billion. That's a whole lot more than 4. All it would take is cooperation between the parties and the White House, and we could get it done.
Look, I would love to get it done, but there is no cooperation because every time you go to do it, the Republicans say, oh, hell no, I got to give that extra $4 billion to the oil companies. So I don't know where you see that cooperation. I see a bunch of bought politicians who are making sure the richest people in the world and the richest companies in the world pay less taxes than the average American. And I find that repulsive, and I find these guys to be the biggest welfare queens in the country.
And it's the reason I started Citizens for Affordable Energy, a grassroots organization, not Republican, not Democratic. We take no money from any energy company. We're about fixing this problem for America's future.
All right, I hear you on that, brother. John Hofmeister, former CEO of Shell Oil, thank you for joining us tonight. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.